Hey, what's up? Today, I just wanted to make a casual discussion video about my thoughts on LittleBigPlanet 3 in 2020. A video I felt had to be made in order to fully express how I feel about this game after 6 or so years of it being released. If you're not aware, I made a big retrospective video essay on LBP3 back in 2019, and it garnered quite a lot of viewership in the LBP community. I know a lot of people were introduced to my channel because of that video, and I'm very glad to hear many enjoyed it. But if you haven't watched it just yet, just keep in mind this is sort of going to be a follow-up and update to that retrospective. I'm going to talk a bit about the current state of the game itself after so many patches, and the current state of the community. Okay, so every single day I get comments from people that tell me they have no problems with LittleBigPlanet 3 whatsoever. They tell me it's their favorite game in the series and that I should give it another chance, since most of the issues have been fixed. To reiterate, I haven't played LBP3 consistently since 2016. Consistently meaning like once or twice a week. And that's because at the time, I was so fed up with the game-breaking bugs, profile corruptions, and other issues that I just stopped dealing with it and moved on. I disliked the game not because of the content it offered, but because a glitchy experience interfered with my enjoyment. But even if my past experiences with the game were horrible, I should have still given LBP3 a fair chance by taking a look at how it holds up today, to see if it's maybe worth picking up now that most of the kinks are seemingly worked out. So, after 4 years, I did go back and play LBP3 for an extended amount of time for this very video, specifically on a PS4 Pro. But before I get into my thoughts and what I think about the game now, I just want to clarify that there were always aspects I genuinely liked about this game. For example, the 70 or so new creation tools, costume pieces, stickers, and decorations were all great. Every new addition made level creation and customizability just better than it was before in previous games. Simply more options. The new developers that took the helm this time around, Sumo Digital, did a fantastic job at introducing new concepts and ideas to the LBP series with this third entry. The expansion to 16 layers was a really cool thing to see, and Oddsock, Toggle, and Swoop made their debut as new playable characters, and even though they weren't the most interesting additions, they all added a nice variety to the gameplay. But all of those new additions were combined with all of the content and tools from LBP1, LBP2, and even LBP Vita to some extent. That includes backwards compatibility with all of the community levels from the first two games, in addition to graphical enhancements for the PS4 version. And considering Sumo Digital was not the original devs, I can only imagine how much work that was for them to handle. I mean, I'm not a game developer or anything, but working off of code from the first two games and bringing over all of that content not only to a next generation system, but a PS3 game as well, doesn't sound easy, just a guess. And I know I may have gone a little overboard bashing Sumo Digital in the past, but that doesn't mean I hate the studio. Sumo is a great development team. I enjoy a lot of their games, including the Sonic Racing games, Snake Pass, and hopefully the upcoming Sackboy spin-off on PS5. But in my retrospective, you could probably tell that I was a bit frustrated with LBP3. I always thought the game was wasted potential, when in reality, that potential was fully realized and I just didn't notice. Talented creators across the community took advantage of all of the new tools in LBP3 and made some of the most brilliant levels, films, and creations that can never in a million years be accomplished with the tools available in LBP2. And I went back to play some of those levels, and to my surprise, this game is still very, very active. I saw recently published levels getting up to 13,000 plays in under a week, and I was just not aware that this game had such a large player base in 2020. Looking back, I kind of feel bad for missing out on the LBP3 community, but again, I was so hesitant to go back because of what I had to deal with. Long load times, crashes, profile corruptions, non-functional online multiplayer. The works. And while LBP3 hasn't gotten an update or any type of new content since 2018, the community manager at Sumo Digital, Steven Isbell, is still active and has been dedicated to helping quality level creators get noticed in the LBP community. He's also the guy that gives out those infamous prize crowns and keeps things in check when it comes to moderation. If it wasn't for Steven or anyone else at Sumo Digital still working alongside him, LBP3 would feel a lot more empty and abandoned. In fact, I feel as if a big factor that still pushes people to create is to achieve any kind of recognition from Steven himself, whether it's a compliment on Twitter for their creations, getting team picked, and again, the ultimate goal, obtaining that sweet, sweet prize crown. And besides one crucial issue that I'll get into later, LittleBigPlanet 3 worked perfectly fine for the most part, and there has been significantly more polish since the last time I played. Do keep in mind though, I essentially started from scratch. I used a relatively new save file, and that's because I had to reset everything when I came across a game-breaking bug with adventure mode 4 or 5 years ago. I already mentioned this in my retrospective, but after beating the prologue, I was unable to move on to the next chapter. The story mode was uncompletable, and I'm almost certain this was around the same time I stopped playing. But after deleting my save file, which still isn't a good solution by any means, I was finally able to make some progression. From what I know, if you have a corrupted profile or come across a game-breaking issue, your only option is to reset your profile or delete your save data. This game hasn't gotten an update in years, so I don't expect Sumo to fix any more issues, but to avoid this, I would say back up your profile every now and then. As for the adventure mode itself, I remember not liking it on the PS3, and going back to it, I still don't really like it as much as the other games in the series, but it's fine, it's not that bad. The music, environments, and level design were good, and overall it was fun to play.
If it's not fun, why bother?
I've beaten story mode on the PS3 when LBP3 launched, so I didn't bother finishing it on PS4, but from what I revisited so far, I don't really like how Sumo tried to overcomplicate things. They tried to make it more of an open-ended experience with quests, hub worlds, and other junk that I just didn't care for. Call it nostalgia, but I liked the simplicity of just jumping into story levels from LBP1, 2, PSP, and PS Vita, and in my opinion, I think the adventure mode in LBP3 lacks a lot of that original charm. If you're a newcomer to the series, this is something you might not care about or even notice, but as an avid LBP fan, I will always prefer the previous games when it comes to story mode. Besides the story and community levels, I also messed around in create mode for about an hour. And again, happy to say I had no issues, no lag, no slowdown, no crashes. But it's time for my opinion on online multiplayer. Oh man. I was debating whether or not I should even buy a PS Plus subscription to try it out for this video. I thought it was fine. I thought if everything else was fine, this would be fine too. I ended up biting the bullets, and since LBP3 was the only game I planned on using PS Plus for, I feel like I wasted my money. I mean, yeah, I'm actually kind of pissed off about this. How is it even possible that online is just as bad or even worse than it was back in 2014? From what I experienced, it ain't good. Okay, so to start off, I used the dive in feature probably 15 times. The join button on the main menu doesn't even do anything, so I tried to host a game and that did something, but as soon as somebody connected, they immediately left. They immediately got disconnected, every single time. So I tried joining people through a level instead of the dive in feature, and that worked sometimes, but when it did, I was kicked right back out. So basically it didn't work. I got my hopes up, but it didn't work. At this point, I thought online was just completely broken, 100% broken. I was about to call it a day and move on, but I pressed the pause button and saw that there was a play online menu. A play online menu, and inside of this menu was another dive in button. Okay, so I tried it, and that worked. Like, it actually worked. For some reason, I can join people from this dive in button, but not from the one on the main menu. Played a few levels with other people, and besides that classic LittleBigPlanet lag, I had a decent time. I'll admit I had a pretty decent time, but that decent time wouldn't last very long. I was disconnected from 2 of the people I joined after only 10 minutes. I don't know if they shut off their PS4 or lost connection to the internet, but the game diverged and I was sent right back to my pod. There are also a few instances where I just didn't connect and I would stare at their pod for about 5 minutes until it kicked me out. Every time that would happen, I was sent back to my pod where I couldn't spawn for what seemed like eons. So I figured restarting the game was a much faster way to spawn back in, and it was just a bad time overall. I was not happy with the online in this game. It is depressing how buggy the online functionality is when it was such a big deal for me back on the PS3 games. Something I realized almost right away though was an error message that would show up every single time I loaded into the game. It said a problem occurred attempting to connect to the PSN, parentheses 0. And I don't know if that's a sign of profile corruption, but I wasn't able to find anything about this message on the internet, so let me know in the comments if you have any idea on what this means. Also, if you have any advice on how to fix my online issues, please let me know in the comments. It's been 6 years, and I haven't been able to play with my friends or even random people. This is not normal. This is clearly an issue with the game itself, but I know there are people out there who don't have any problems with this game's online, so I don't know what's up. Again, if this is an issue on my side, I'm willing to try just about anything. I just want to play this game with other people. And I know I didn't talk about the PS3 version that much. Let's get into that actually, because I did test it. When it did work, I couldn't connect to my friends. The game would crash after 30 minutes in create mode, and the load times were unbearable. But here's the thing. That was my original PS3 Slim I've had for almost 10 years now. I've noticed that this system in particular has crashed a lot more than it used to. It's a lot slower than it used to be, so I'm almost positive it had to do with my system, not the game. I ended up getting a replacement PS3 system, which was the Super Slim model, and LBP3 worked like a charm on it. I didn't test it as much as the PS4 version, but from what I played, it works fine. So, is LittleBigPlanet 3 a good or bad game? Well, it depends. It depends on what exactly you want to do in this game. Do you want to make levels yourself, or do you want to play other people's levels? If so, I'd say yeah, go for it. This is the best LBP game for playing and making levels. If you want it for the multiplayer, or even the story mode, I would say no. Those aspects of LBP3 are not very good, especially the online multiplayer, which has some serious issues that will never be patched. But who knows, you might not come across those issues during your playtime. And at that point, it depends on if you want to take that chance. LittleBigPlanet 3 is usually very cheap though. I've seen it go on sale for $5 multiple times, so maybe give it a shot regardless. But I always considered LBP3 an irredeemable game, but after giving it a second look, I could at least appreciate what Sumo did to expand level creation, and what the community did with those creation tools. If you don't care about multiplayer or story mode, and if glitches don't affect your enjoyment, LittleBigPlanet 3 is the ultimate LBP game, and even though the multiplayer is unbearable for me, I'm going to continue checking out the community levels every now and then. I might even make some levels myself in the future. So you know, if you really want to, you can heart my LBP profile. My PSN ID is BlazingVictini YT. I just recommend not playing any of my LBP2 levels. I was 12 when I made most of them, so they're not very good. If I come back to level creation though, you'll see a big increase in quality for sure. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. I'll see you soon with a video that's not LittleBigPlanet related. Maybe, we'll see. But goodbye.